And you know, the people who presided over the Ministry of Interior then, when we lost so many young people and when so many lives disappeared, have been promoted, not demoted. Kithure Kindiki, who was in charge of internal, should have either taken responsibility or shown us who was responsible for those killings.
Welcome to Fanya, Mambo, Africa. I know it's a bit cold in the city, but it's not cold at Alfa House. We're super excited. Fanya, Mambo.
Yeah, a very good day to you. Whatever time of the day, you know, some of you join us from abroad, so it's probably morning or night, whatever time, a very good that time of the day.
It's been a while.
Or night. Yes, it's been a while.
Welcome back. The people have been asking, hey, where is our brother?
I was out there still doing the same fight for them on any other available platform, but Fanya Mambo Africa is home. After I'm done with everything else, I usually tell people Fanya Mambo Africa is home.
This is home.
This is where we feel wow.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now we have to start with a very interesting story because the Chief of Defense Forces has been trending for the last 24 hours simply because of some remarks he made yesterday during a public forum that was happening where he told Kenyans, with all this must go, it must be within the law. And now people are looking at it like our military is now being politicized. What is your take on that?
First and foremost, Kenyans have never said that they want to commit a coup. No Kenyan has got, the last I checked, we don't have guns. So Chief of Defense, relax. We don't wear combat. Relax. But we have a weapon more superior than everything else you carry, which is called the ballot. And when we say President William Ruto must go, for sure we have a weapon called the ballot. And we will use it to take him home. So Chief of Defense Forces, maybe somebody might have come to you in the night and told you that Kenyans want to overthrow the government. They don't. In fact, it's not in their dreams. It's not a fantastic idea that Kenyans are holding. So relax, CDF, we can assure you that the only weapons that Kenyans have, I think sometimes, is a rungu in the house for beating the neighbor's dog if it comes, or a thief. But we are not up to the task. Hatuna vifaru sisi, hatuna nguvu, but we have the ballot. And that one for sure, we will use it to make sure that Ruto goes home in 2027.
But let me ask, in the whole speech, because I've seen it online, he spoke of the military being apolitical. But then, why is it that people have interpreted as though he's saying he's taking sides, or not even him, like the military is taking sides in this?
Because it's the first time the army is engaging wananchi. Even during Moi's time, the army never engaged us. And remember, there's a time they came to the streets. You've forgotten, June, they were there. And they were wondering, wait, we usually go to Somalia, we find armed people, they have guns. These guys are coming with water and handkerchiefs. What shall we do to them? I think Chief of Defense Forces, let me tell you, again, you have been sent into a place where you will feel misplaced. The reason you're going to feel misplaced is you'll find people carrying handkerchiefs and saying Ruto must go. You'll find people carrying drinking water. What weapon is drinking water? And saying Ruto must go. I think Chief of Defense Forces needs to realize that he is being put into a fight that doesn't belong to the army. That's why when the army came to our streets, what did they do? They carried Gen Zs in their trucks. People danced with them. We celebrated seeing them on our streets. If they want to come, we see them on the streets. We are happy, but we shall not fight our army. In fact, you realize that the Gen Zs never threw anything at the army. No protester even cared to throw a handkerchief at them. We've missed them by the way. We can give them a high five on the streets. Nobody wants to fight with the army. Nobody has woken up thinking we want a war with the army. So KDF, relax. Hii vita ni ya raia. This is a political war. Tuachieni tu, hii ni vita ya raia. Kama mkisikia kuna watu wako na bunduki, well, come in very forcefully and deal with those ones. But people with handkerchiefs, just leave them alone.
So considering that the event where he was speaking was a public engagement, so it's supposed to involve both guys in the military, basically in the security sector, and the public so that they try and build a relationship, are we then misinterpreting what was meant to be for good, or are we reading too much?
Why are they saying William Ruto must go? I think that's the fundamental question. Why have they never sung this loudly about any other head of state? Even Moi must go came in 2002, the last few. I mean, Mr. President, make citizens feel happy. Stop promising our children a chapati making machine. We are still waiting for it. These are the things that are making them say he must go. Because now, can you imagine those children walikuwa excited? They thought the following morning tutakuwa na machine ya chapati, 1 million. Hatujaiona bado. So what do you think is going on in the minds of those children? Hata wakienda home wakicheza wanasema Ruto must go because machine ya chapati haikukam. I think it's not a question of whether people want President Ruto to go home. It's a question of why are Kenyans feeling the way they are feeling. And if the army can help us in answering that question, then they wouldn't talk to Kenyans like that. The question is, why are Kenyans feeling the way they are feeling? If we can answer that question, then probably the twin question of why are you saying Ruto must go would never arise. Because I can tell you, there is no way a president will come and do good things to Kenya, and then they say he must go. People will say, we wish you stayed a little longer.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. But the other argument would be, as we sing Ruto must go, or as citizens keep saying it, are we conscious of the Constitution and what it has laid as the procedure?
Freedom of expression. Look here. People go to Naivasha. They are taking their happy drink, somewhere on water, somewhere. Everybody had a drink of their choice. And in the middle of a field, they are singing Ruto must go. What can a man holding a beer do to remove Ruto from the presidency? And he's somewhere in Naivasha, by the way, in a rally in the bush, singing Ruto must go. There's something we call the ability to cause harm. If I am sitting somewhere in Muranga and saying, I will slap Sarah, and I'm in Muranga, and then I do this, I'm slapping you, and you are somewhere in Nairobi, how will I slap you when I'm in Muranga and you're in Nairobi? The people who are singing Ruto must go are incapable of removing Ruto from the presidency. They are not even carrying implements that appear that they would help them remove Ruto from the presidency. Someone is in a football stadium in Nyayo Stadium and he's singing Ruto must go. And it's a game between Kenya and Gabon. How is that person a threat to national security? I think he's expressing what is happening. And they say, from the abundance of the heart speaketh the mouth. So from the abundance of the Kenyans' hearts, the mouth is speaking and saying Ruto must go.
So do you think the political class then feels threatened by these chants, so to say?
If you're married and your wife keeps saying, nitarudi kwetu, and then you tell her, I don't want you to hear you saying again, you'll go to your house, have you solved the problem? I think you ask your wife, my dear, why are you always saying nitarudi kwetu? Therein lies the solution. So President William, when you wake up, Aden Duale and the others, and you hear your wife telling you, mimi nitaenda, I am tired of this house, I also have a home, siku tukanana kwetu. You don't wake up and tell your wife, shut up, I never want to hear you saying you're going home. I think you ask your wife, and why are you saying you want to go back home? And your wife will tell you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you fix that, what does your wife do? She starts going to the market and telling everybody, I have the best husband. My husband is a king. Let me go home early and make tea for him. Start making Kenyans feel like that wife who's been treated right, and she's leaving everybody else, including the gossip in the village, and going home early to make a meal for the husband because she's happy with the husband. I think this is what we need to address. You're addressing the wrong thing. You're shouting at your wife because she's saying she's going back home. Yeah.
So one of the ways maybe the president looked at and thought would work out was to bring Raila Odinga in the circle. And we've seen Raila Odinga speak out and say, You can't just be saying Ruto must go without a formula or without having a way of fixing the problem. Then is this what is going to work? Is it one of the solutions? And is it viable?
I go back to my former analogy. You have your problem with your wife. You take it to the next level and kick her out. You even get your neighbors to help you kick your wife out. Then you bring in another wife. And then you start saying you're trying to unite your homestead by kicking your wife and bringing another wife home. Can't you see the irony? I think you cannot speak of unification of the nation by discarding others. I am one person who fought Rigiji very vehemently, and everybody knows. But I thought he had a right to stay within this government that he brought us because he played a part in bringing us this horrible government. And I'm glad he's looking from outside and he's making apologies everywhere he's going. It is a good time to say that there's a problem. Let me explain it better. The president has been reshuffling his cabinet, left, right, center. And I tell people, go to school, and the school has a problem. So you say the problem is the deputy headmaster. So they remove the deputy headmaster. Then mwalimu wa geography anaambiwa fundisha history. And then the history teacher is taken to a chemistry class. The chemistry teacher is taken to a Kiswahili class. They have reshuffled all the teachers. They have even fired some teachers. The school still has a problem. It tells you one thing. The problem of the school is the principal. At least we've experimented. We have removed the deputy. The school is in turmoil. We have changed the subject teachers. We've even changed cleaners, by the way, in that school. We've even gotten to a place where we've replaced the cook. And then we've said, wait, the school is still in turmoil. So why don't we change this one person in the school we haven't changed? And that person is the principal. And the school will be okay.
But that change, whatever you're referring to, has to wait. So
Not necessarily.
If we are to follow the
If I
constitution...
am head of state and I follow the constitution, one of the things is to realize if Kenyans don't want me, resigning is also part of the constitution. Why are we not talking of invoking that part of the constitution, where we implore him and beg him and tell him in the name of God? Because Kenyans don't want you. Well, don't be their president by force. Just resign. Ama, ask for a referendum for Kenyans to say if they want you to continue being president for the next 2 years. If they vote yes, you stay. If they vote no, you go. So the constitution has got many opportunities for us to test it and to practice in democracy. The only thing we are not going to do as a country is anarchy. We are not going to storm State House. We are not going to try unconstitutional means of removing the president. So the army relax and everybody else relax. We are civilians who have a brain and we love this country. And we love the small, small things. We want to be able to go to Naivasha and just sing on top of a car. And that will not happen if there's anarchy and if there's war in this country. We want to go and watch Safari Rally, by the way. And we want to do those things we do as a country. So we are not going to spoil this country. No. Let it be known that we are stakeholders here and we love this country. We are not going to spoil our country.
So do you think Raila Odinga is helping the president fix the mess? Because as it is, I think almost now everyone knows there is a mess in Kenya for sure.
I go back to what I said. The problem we have is the headmaster of the school. So even if you bring a senior teacher, in the school there used to be somebody called a senior teacher. As long as the principle is the wrong principle, no amount of changing the teachers, bringing others, giving them titles, you can even have 2 deputy principals. But the problem is the principle of the school. And once you are at home with that reality, that the problem we have as a nation is the principle of the school, then you will realize that everything else we are doing is patching up a wound that is already, it's already too bad.
So if the president doesn't resign, because I don't think he wants to, he had a vision which is still alive to lead Kenya for 5 years and change the country. Are you saying the country is doomed from where you sit?
The country is not doomed. The country is only in a bad place. What will happen is we shall have prolonged the suffering of Kenyans for another 2 years. We are resilient. I don't think there are citizens in the world who can take or what is being meted upon us and remain peaceful, but we shall remain peaceful. It's a commitment we have made as Kenyans. Yeah, it's a commitment. We are committed to be peaceful and to be resilient and to be internally vigilant. We shall continue to say where things are wrong. And then we wait for 2027.
Okay.
If we have to wait for 2027, if they can resign, it's also a constitutional provision. If we can go into a referendum where we decide whether we want him to continue or not, it's also a constitutional provision. But anarchy is not in the constitution, and we are not going to be part of it.
And it's good to remind people that the CDF also mentioned that we cannot allow anarchy to happen. So it's not just from the citizen side. I think even the military at that point is like,
on that one, we
anarchy.
support him. You know, I usually tell people, even the poorest of us has a child, maybe, by God's blessing. And they don't want that child to miss the next meal because there's blood everywhere and supermarkets are closed. And you can't send him to buy a packet of milk. So CDF will support you on that one. There will be no anarchy. I mean, even if we see people trying to bring anarchy, we will join the army to quell the anarchy. So CDF, don't worry. We are here. We are here to say, I will be the first person to make a clarion call, to tell Kenyans, let us join the army in quelling anarchy. We are stakeholders in this country. We love this country. Some of the Kenyans we are telling have invested a lot of money in this country. They have built schools, they built hospitals. Hata yule mtu ametengeneza kale kamashini ka smoky. That's an investment.
Yeah.
Ya 75,000 or 100. Hawezi taka kuona 100,000 yake ikipotea. Huyo mtu wa kuuza nini kwa barabara. So we are all invested in this country.
Right.
And we even you know, having ancestral land is a blessing. For those who think that they are really poor and they're probably sitting on 5 acres of ancestral land, they're rich people and they don't want to lose us. So we are stakeholders, and the army, we will support you actually in quelling anarchy.
So Kenyans have a love for this country for sure.
Oh, they do.
All right. One of the things that maybe the president made earlier this week while doing his reshuffle, just a day before, was that he cited that J.B. Muturi was a very incompetent attorney general, and that's why things were not moving as they should. So is this one of the ways? Would it be, what would have led him to say that in public, having in mind that Muturi had been saying the government has been abducting children, and he even refused to sit in cabinet, I think, for 3 sittings until his issue was discussed, but unfortunately he's been axed before that.
To say that he's incompetent is a right. The president has a right to say that, and he can say many other things. Because he's the appointing authority, and maybe he has a competence-based marking scheme for what his people should do. But when you move someone who is incompetent from the office of Attorney General to being in charge of the civil service, it means that you've put in the hands of an incompetent person the entire civil service. Is that the good place to be? No. But I also want to see the president's definition of competent. Then that's where you draw the line, because he says Justin Muturi is incompetent. Then he brings us Joyfrey Ruto to replace him. The man who goes to parliament with a bill proposing to literally make it impossible for people to picket. Contrarily and completely, totally against our Constitution 2010, he comes up with a bill to regulate how people demonstrate. And he feels that that is his claim to fame. So if competence means people who are playing a huge part in fighting the human rights of Kenyans, because what the president is doing is painting for us the picture of an incompetent person. Who is an incompetent person? A person who says no to abductions. A person who says that the rights of Kenyans are being infringed upon. A person who comes and says that I would rather lose my seat than watch you commit injustices upon Kenyans. That person is declared incompetent. And then the human being who comes with a bill to try and claw back on the gains of the 2010 Constitution is now branded as competent. What the head of state is telling us is he's in love with those who want to make Kenya an autocratic state. And he's not in love with those people who complain about abductions.
Well, you'd argue the bill was withdrawn.
Why is a person, to even think, to even fathom, to even sit down and calculate on how you can claw back on the gains of the 2010 Constitution, and to go and take that incompetence to the floor of the House, because it can only be incompetence, is a bad place to be. So to say that you have withdrawn that does not withdraw the character, because you have to be of a certain character, a certain way of life, a certain framework for you to do that kind of madness.
But looking at it from a further political eye, Geoffrey Ruko is the MP who was representing JB Muturi. They share the constituency. And he was also the only MP who went to parliament through the Democratic Party, which is led by JB Muturi. What is the political inspiration of just pulling the same person who is your MP, your neighbor, your only party in?
Two things. I think the first one is you need to understand who the person of the President William Ruto is. One, I have not seen anybody appointed to cabinet because of merit. They've been appointed to cabinet for political reasons or economic reasons. Look at the whole cabinet and show me one person who is there because they really merited it. It was for political expediency or for some financial consideration of some sort, whatever it was.
But you can't say that, and you justified the appointment of Mutahi Kagwe and I think Lee.
I'll tell you, and again I go back to the first part, for political expediency. It was hoped and envisioned that Mutahi Kagwe would bring the mountain back, that he carried the aspirations of the mountain, and that the people in the mountain respect him, and that he's close to Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. It was so believed, assumed, and believed. And so that he was coming into the fold and probably bringing a huge chunk. Unfortunately, he has not brought any part of the mountain into government, but at least he's brought competence into government. Again, what was the primary reason for his appointment? It was political. It was political more than it was valuable. And that's why some ministers now are finding it very hard to deliver anything for this country. Now, when you see Geoffrey Ruto coming in, what kind of competence do you think Geoffrey Ruto will bring into that ministry? None that we know of. So he's just going to sing President Ruto's song. And so he's been brought in to try and balance what is looking like politics of Mount Kenya East. Because they were thinking that at some point the mountain will get to a place where he can so heavily reward what he's calling Mount Kenya East, and then try to break Mount Kenya East from Mount Kenya, the rest of Mount Kenya. Unfortunately, even those who live near there have found it very hard. I have looked at them, and even the deputy president has been unable to go and do a homecoming party in his own place because the people of that region are not interested.
But we have the president doing next week a Mount Kenya tour. And I think I saw Geoffrey and the Deputy President Kindiki doing the groundwork earlier in the week, so that as President Ruto comes, maybe they are more welcoming.
Have you seen that document that was being shared around about his itinerary for the trip? And one of the things is, you saw the mention of Kenya Power so many times. Why do you think that was happening? They made the president launch transformers in Western. And they're about to do the same thing for him here. It's going to make him a lot more unpopular than ever before, because these are mainly REREC, you hear rural electrification. They are mainly Kenya Power projects that are going on. I mean, there's a Kenya Power lorry going on right now somewhere doing something, not knowing that one day the president will come and say this is a development agenda from the Republic of Kenya or from the president's office. Some of them, they were not even able to remove the word EU, European Union, because they are European Union funded projects and they are there. I think this is not what the president needed to go and launch in Mount Kenya. However, his advisors found it fit to take him there, which in my view is good, because it's going to have some economic benefit for the people of Mount Kenya, by the way. And if you don't believe it, just watch what happened in Nairobi. there was a lot of mobilization that happened, to the extent that border riders had gone to State House to demand their money for mobilization. So there'll be money allocated to mobilization within the mountain. We cannot hide from that. We saw in Nairobi. It happened, so it will happen everywhere. So the people of Kenya, this is a good time to come and pick some of what is your money anyway. It's taxpayers' money. See whether it can amend a shoe here or do something there. It's also a time for you to come and show respect to the head of state. I've always said that. Don't leave your house to go and heckle him. It's not necessary. Either stay at home, or when you go there, just keep quiet. Let him speak. Walk home calmly after he's done talking. Let him come and say, you see, I've always told people, democracy doesn't mean disrespect. I have never advocated for heckling of the head of state. But that doesn't mean we love him and we want him, no. It just means that we are respectable enough to tell him in a very nice way that, Your Excellency, we have heard you. But at the ballot, we promise you, we will not vote for you.
Let me ask, because I keep wondering, in developed countries, perhaps, do we have a president doing tours, or is it just an African thing? And does it add much value to a nation for a president to be doing development tours?
Just the other day, Parliament allocated an extra 5 billion to the office of the president for his entertainment and allowance and hosting and so on and so forth. We spend about 27 billion entertaining our president and hospitality, which is exactly the equivalent of what we spend for pre-primary and secondary education. So what we allocate to one man is equivalent to what we allocate to 14 million children. If I was head of state, I would completely and totally work from Harambee House for the time being. And all these billions of money being allocated to his travel and leisure and state house and security and fuel guzzlers would go into meaningful development. If, for example, you send school capitation to a school in Lokichogio, the parents will feel it because they'll go to pay fee and they'll be told, you had come with 5,000. No, the government has paid for you 2,700, just pay 2,300. That parent will go and tell the whole village. This is how things work. You don't need to be on every corner. In fact, some of the most effective governors, and I don't want to mention them here, they've not paid me advertising fees, have been very effective without leaving their offices. They are not going in every corner. They are just making projects that are meaningful and impactful, and people usually feel them. And it's people who usually talk about them and say, hey, the governor has done this. So head of state, over to you. You don't need to do any trips anywhere. If today you decide, this help thing is taking too much money, let us find a way to disband it, let us send money to schools. If today they decided, okay, they keep saying people have not been able to, out of the 21 million registered people on SHA, only 4 million are paying. But they don't want to address the question of, why are they not paying? There's an extremely high likelihood that these people are not even able to fix a meal for the night. Will they go and pay for SHA? So before you say Kenyans are not paying, ask yourself, are they eating? How many of them are having one meal a day, like an animal, one? How many? And then you can address those other issues.
And now that you've mentioned SHA, I remember Duale again has been reshuffled. I think, is this the third time, or is it the fourth time? Third time. And now he's under the Ministry of Health. Do you think he's going to fix this mess that is SHA Chief Taifa Care, whatever it is? Because there's even an address he did yesterday, or is it yesterday, saying that the people who are against the functionality of SHA are cartels who run NHIF. So that's the first statement he's made upon getting to the ministry. And also, why does he get reshuffled so much?
Because everywhere he goes, he makes no impact. And so even he departs, there's nobody who feels his departure. Have you ever had a place where Duale left and people said, tumenyang'anywa minister mzuri? At least that's what people say when a good principal leaves a school. There are teachers who leave schools and then parents complain. I have a child in a school where one day a mathematics teacher was transferred. And it was a problem in that school. And we were saying, can we find a way to get that teacher to come back to this school? I want our cabinet secretaries to be those kind of people, where if you leave a specific place, and it doesn't matter how long you've been there, this excuse of saying, 3 months is a short time, no. There are people who walk into an office and by lunch hour, same day, you can tell we want this human being around. The fact that Duale is not being missed wherever he's left and wherever he's living, and is not being looked forward to wherever he's going to, tells you why the president keeps reshuffling him. And when he talks of people being against Shah, who is against Shah? I take them back to the root. You know, sometimes when you eat, and then you even eat prawns and you eat, seafoods, you tend to think of those people who are not eating seafoods as stupid. Wewe hujai kula octopus? And this guy is asking, I only want sukuma wiki for the night. In all honesty, there are Kenyans who can't afford 150 shillings to buy a packet of unga. And those are the people you are telling them, you must register on SHA and you must pay. Who wants to do a harambe when they are sick? It's dehumanizing. They only find themselves there because you need to do an audit of their M-Pesa transactions. Kuna watu 1,000 haipitiangi kwa hiyo simu in a month. Haiwezi pitia. You do the sum total, it's not 1,000. So how will that person be able to pay for SHA? Those are the questions that nobody wants to address. So when they come and say that Duale has been transferred to the Ministry of Health, to do what? Beat people into paying for something they can't afford even if they wanted to? I think let's address the root problem. People don't have money in their pockets. And how do we ensure that people have money in their pocket? You can come and say, oh, unga imeshuka, iko 130. Ata ikishuka. And Kenyans don't have their 130 shillings in their pocket. It's like someone telling you, a sweet is only 15 shillings. Yes, it is. But do I have 15 shillings? And I am not saying I don't have 15 shillings because I'm lazy. I am saying, show me an opportunity to earn. And I'll earn the 15 shillings. And I'll buy. Right now, even if they took unga to 70, and we are not saying they shouldn't lower it, let them lower it if they can. How many Kenyans do have that 70 shillings in their pocket? So we need to move from the idea of saying that we are trying to lower the commodities to the idea of trying to say we are trying to increase the purchasing power of our people. And you cannot increase the purchasing power of your people by overtaxing them because Kenyans are overtaxed.
And you know, one of the sad stories that I have seen was in Turkana. I think it was a deputy commissioner who was distributing relief food. And then in his speech, he told the residents that for you to get relief food moving forward, you must register for SHA. So if you do not have SHA, then no relief food. So when public servants get to a point that they give such threats, how do we change the whole idea of instead of threatening the people, then you convince them to do?
Well, first and foremost, Turkana is one of the counties that has benefited hugely and heavily from monies coming from the central government to them as a county. They have received the lion's share of county redistribution revenues since the beginning of devolution. Does Turkana look to you like a county where money has been poured in the billions? No. The problem with the bulk of these counties is that eventually when cases emerge of corruption, very many of the top-ranking officials from those counties are implicated in corruption, and a lot of county monies are found in the wrong accounts. If Turkana had invested in, for example, water for its people, and even training in simple basic farming skills, and even teaching those people zero grazing, that you can have one cow. Because one of the reasons why Turkana is where it is you've seen that community is a pastoralist community. And I feel for them, and I feel their losses when someone loses 100 cows to the drought and so on. That's a lot of pain and a lot of work. The question becomes, what if the government of that county had invested in telling them, have your 50 cows, yes, because they have sentimental value, but now we are introducing to you a modern cow that can give you 40 liters of milk, and that you don't have to roam around the whole country with. You can keep it in a small paddock. Start introducing the idea of zero grazing gradually. You would have had a Turkana who is able to milk the cow from home. What if they had introduced the idea of even small-scale farming, telling someone now you need to settle down a bit, and start introducing the idea of giving title deeds to some people, so that these people feel a sense of ownership to their land, and they can till it and produce from it, because it's a fertile place. It's virgin land. When it floods, Turkana suffers the most from floods, by the way. And when it's dry, they suffer the most from. So it tells you it's land that receives water, but water that is never harvested. So let them not threaten people about joining SHA. Let them ask these people, how do we meet you at your point of need? And how do we become a county that is responsive to your needs? And nobody wants the dehumanization of being given relief food. Nobody wants it.
The former Chief Justice, David Maraga, was doing a public speech in Rongo University. And in his speech, the key question that came out was he's being fronted by a lot of Gen Zs that they feel he's someone who can lead the country because of the way he led the judiciary with integrity and all those things. And again, he said he's going to consider. But something I took from his speech was also the idea of saying if he's happy he's not President Ruto's advisor, but if he was, he would ask him to listen to the people. What do you deduce from that?
I think I'll start from, it's not about Justice Maraga. It's about Kenyans taking this back to where it should be. You see, the people within and the people who surround President William Ruto, and you've had them, had started going around the country trying to bring back the tribal card. Mind you, and this is to every young person in this country and every person who means well for this country, the only way Kenya Kwanza could win the next election, because I don't see any other way, is if they are able to tribalize this country back again. If they are able to say Wamasai wako hivi, Wajaluo wako hivi, Wakikuyu wako hivi, then they will win. Because people will vote on basis of tribe and nothing else. But now comes Maraga and young people, and it's issue-based. You sit in that room, and the young people who were speaking to Justice Maraga only remember that he's from Kisii when they hear others saying it. They looked at Maraga and they were speaking from the point of integrity, from the point of who he is and what his history is like. So I want to hammer back every Kenyan. I am a singular voice in this, but I pray that we become many, many, many voices in this. Let us start a huge campaign of saying that tribe will not be an issue in 2027. That way we shall beat William Ruto 10-0. So now, Waomba, take yourself wherever you are if you're listening to me. Today, do a short video condemning tribalists. Wherever you are, on your social media spaces, choose the social media site of your choice. And let us start a very serious campaign against what these people are starting. Because these people are starting a tribal thing. They've already started a conversation around how do we make sure that this tribe votes this way and this tribe goes this way and so on and so forth. So we will do our best to ensure that that issue of tribe is not going to be on the ballot in 2027. And we can start that one now, the way we started with finance bill, and I assure you we shall win. I like what they told Justice Maraga. I like what they are telling Matiang'i, and I like what they are going to tell every other person. And I pray that we all start that campaign of saying tribe is not on the ballot. Tribe is not on the ballot. We shall win.
And of course, a key instrument in this 2027 campaign is the IEBC, and the vetting process has been going on. What's your take so far on how it's going?
I think first and foremost, we are building an IEBC because it's a constitutional requirement. Let nobody in power think that they are doing Kenyans a favor by constituting IEBC. If anything, the powers that be have failed us. Because for 2 years, we've not had an IEBC, so there are young people who would by now have registered who have not registered. So let us constitute it very quickly. Shall we get men and women of integrity? The process is as good as those who are running it. They are thinking that they want to control who becomes commissioners of IEBC. Kenyans have made very strong submissions, and I join them in making those submissions. We are saying it doesn't matter who you make IEBC commissioner. In fact, it doesn't matter who is chairman, who is secretary, who is treasurer, who is anything. It doesn't matter who is commissioner. We as Kenyans shall vote overwhelmingly against the leaders we don't want, and we shall vote overwhelmingly for the leaders we want. You know, sometimes when you go into a boxing match, it's easy to fix a match when people are changing blows. But when it's a technical knockout, even those people who wanted to help, they are seeing their guy is on the floor. And there's nothing they can do because the guy they wanted to help is on the floor. 2027 will be a very decisive election. Kenyans are coming in and they are saying, we want to remove this regime from power through the ballot. And so it will be a technical knockout. It will not matter who is IBC chairman. Because hata chairman anasoma results anaangalia anasema, if I read it any other way, I'll ban the country. And so let us have IBC constituted. But most importantly, let us reconstitute our resolve to remove bad governance. Because once our resolve is, as they reconstitute IBC, let us reconstitute our resolve. And let the resolve be so strong that any person who tries to come up with anything contrary to that will find it very difficult. But again, we shall be democratic. I can tell you for sure. There are people who will vote for William Ruto, but there will be few. And what we want is to make sure that even for those few, we protect William Ruto's votes. People can tend to think that we only want to protect our votes. No. We want to also zealously protect his votes so that the few who will give him votes will feel that their votes counted. Only that they did not make him president. So when people talk about protecting the vote, President William Ruto, we are giving you an assurance. We are fair. We shall constitute ourselves into protectors of the votes from wherever we shall be. And one of the things we shall do is we shall also protect yours so that people can see how few they were and how well we guarded the few votes that you will get in 2027.
The confidence with which you speak for 50 million Kenyans about having President Ruto having few votes is questionable.
My good friend.
I mean, he's a politician like any other.
Let us think about it. Tell me, from the demographies of this country, who is this person who has interacted with Shah that would want to vote for him? Who is this person who's interacted with the funding models for the schools that would want to vote for him? Who is this person who carries a pay slip that would want to vote for him?
Kenyans.
And a pay slip?
Kenyans.
Anybody who carries a pay slip na anakatwa housing levy ya nyumba yenye hata hii occupy, they are waiting for in fact, they are wondering why 2027 is too far away. But it's the constitution, so we wait.
Yeah, because everyone has a right to vote whichever way they like.
And that's why we said we respect. It would be foolish for someone to say William Ruto will get 0 votes. No, it's foolish. That's a liar. But he'll get a few votes.
Okay.
And I will be one of those persons who will offer myself to tell people that as we protect the votes that are against William Ruto, because that's where my vote will be. So help me God to be alive and to vote and to be okay. We shall also protect his votes. And so that people can come and see that we were fair and that he lost in fairness.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right, so something else that has been very of public debate actually has been the way Kenyans, either as Kenyans we've become insensitive and so have our politicians become. So it's because, and this I'm speaking in line with when we lost Chebukati, there was a lot of negative stories online. We've seen the same with the politician who lost their son. And one wonders, did we lose our moral fabric, or is it the people or is it the politicians?
I'll say both. First, politicians have made horrible mistakes. There are things that politicians have done and said that have left very deep wounds in the hearts of Kenyans. Very, very deep wounds. And because of that, some Kenyans have not been able to forgive. It was Mahatma Gandhi who said that forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. Only the strong can forgive. The weak can never forgive. I can repeat that. Mahatma Gandhi said forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. The weak can never forgive. Only the strong can forgive. So when I see people speaking the way they speak of Chebukati, I understand them. Because Gandhi said they are weak, and the weak can never forgive. When I see people saying things they said about our good friend Beatrice Elachi, the MP for Dagoretti North, having lost her son, again I say, only the strong have got the attribute of forgiveness. I do not support, because I have seen the reasons against why they fight Beatrice Elachi very strongly. I remember her words in Bomas of Kenya when Morara Kebaso was being beaten, and other words she had said to people who she felt were anti-government and told them to leave the country. Those people are yet to forgive her. And I would understand we have different strengths. Yesterday, mimi kama Fanya Mambo, went to her house. And I went to sign a condolence book. And I went to wish that family strength as they battle what they are going through. But why did I do that? I did that because we had lost a Gen Z who I believe would not support what's going on. And two, when we lost other Gen Zs who had not come from families of rich politicians, I attended their matangas and I attended some burials. That's where I'm coming from. I am coming from saying I cannot be seen to be this leader who only attends the matangas of those who are said to be poor and not from the rich. So it's like you're choosing who you need to console when they lose their loved ones. I attended the matangas of some Gen Zs who died in those protests. And I attended yesterday the matanga of Beatrice Elachi's son. May he rest in peace. He was a Gen Z who I believe if we met him secretly on the night after the ballot and asked him, he'd probably have said he wouldn't have voted for this administration. So for me, I feel we lost a vote that would have gone into helping us remove this administration. That's number one. But I also feel we lost a promising young soul and a young Kenyan who would have made a huge contribution to this country. So it was unfortunate and it was sad. And as Kenyans become insensitive, I'll say we have freedom of expression. I may not go into the social media site of everybody and remove what they are saying and posting against people who have lost loved ones. But the rule in boxing is don't hit a man when he's down. Elachi is down right now. And punching her when she's down is not going to help her.
Do you think politicians understand the harm they did to the normal Kenyans on 25th June 2024? Because I feel like it has an impact on what we are seeing.
They don't. They have absolutely no understanding. I was speaking to one on a TV show this morning, someplace I was. And he was saying how the president is going to do a tour in his region and why he's wondering why people don't want the president and why we are refusing him. We just are full of bitterness and hatred. I told them, yes, we are very bitter. Then he said, oh, yes. I told them, I am full of so much bitterness. Because this administration is asked to explain to us in excess of 200 people, where are they? You're walking into Mount Kenya and you are going past places of families that have never known where their children are since June. In fact, those who were buried, yes, they are in turmoil and pain when they see the grave. But they know that their children died to the bullets of this administration. Bullets bought by their money as taxpayers. What do you think goes on in the minds of those people who were told that their children disappeared and the police have no idea where they are? So Kenyans are extremely hurt. Kenyans are extremely bitter, and Kenyans have got reason to feel that they would not want to forgive this administration.
So with that knowledge, then how do politicians expect citizens to remain civil and maybe sensitive?
Politicians,
or how do we
the bulk of them are
clean up
insensitive.
that?
Because one of the first things that should have happened is someone should have made an apology. Because these people, and you know the people who presided over the Ministry of Interior then, when we lost so many young people and when so many lives disappeared, have been promoted, not demoted. Kithure Kindiki, who was in charge of internal, should have either taken responsibility or shown us who was responsible for those killings. Because these were police in charge of quelling those demonstrations. The fact that he didn't show us who to apportion blame to and that he did not take responsibility for and was promoted Do you know how much that hurts Kenyans? Because it tells them what the heart of William Ruto thinks about them. That the people who presided over the loss of so many young lives are being promoted and being paid on taxpayers' money. And those who have stood in the gap and said, it is wrong to abduct our people like this and mistreat them like this, like Justin Muturi, are being shown the door. So it tells you where this administration is. That we want those people who want to be atrocious, and we don't want those people who are fighting against atrocities for our people.
Okay. And I hope they can find a way to apologize to the people or just make it up, because I don't think any nation develops with the kind of anger that we have, because it will always be a fight between us against them at some point. Anyway, Raila Odinga has also been appointed the special envoy to South Sudan to try and bring peace in the region, now that the Vice President Riek Machar had been house arrested. Do you think he's going to manage that?
First, you know that Kenya has been hosting the RMS rebels here. RSF.
Yes.
Why do you on one hand host rebels and on the other hand purport to want to bring peace in South Sudan? Have you ever seen someone who is taking milk and very strong alcohol at the same time and then wondering why they are vomiting? Immediately we did that, we lost a lot of tea business to Sudan, more than 5 billion worth of tea. We lost to Sudan. How can we pretend to be peacekeepers when we openly and blatantly hold those people who are an affront to peace in Sudan? I think Raila Amolo Odinga, you needed to have told President William Ruto, wait a minute. It is not in good faith. It doesn't augur well. It doesn't look good. We've already messed up big time. We've gone way too deep. Let us allow Africa to sit and choose a son of their own who doesn't appear to have this kind of taint on them. And let that son of their own go and create mediation and create peace in the country. In mediation, there's something called good offices.
Before you go that, do you think we can go that direction when, our president is the chairman of East African Community? So either way, he still has a responsibility, or Kenya, for that matter, has a responsibility.
I agree. Responsibility doesn't mean that Kenyans are the only people qualified. We've had Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete, a wonderful, wonderful former president, still in retirement. I think that would have been because mediation is a soft skill. Mediation is about coming and appearing to come with very clean hands. I feel they would have appointed somebody like Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete. And Sudan, and if you like, also has got those issues of, some of the Southerners, very many of them are Christians, some are Muslims, and so on and so forth. So even that balance of having a Muslim in and maybe a Christian in, if you look at retired presidents within the region, it is possible, even not presidents, to get wonderful men and women who would go out there and help Sudan feel they have sent us the right person. Yes.
But we wish Raila Odinga the very best, all in all.
We wish him well.
Because he's carrying our flag when you go out. We wish
him well. But you see, from the inception, sometimes when things fail from inception, they don't finish well. I think they were hurried in doing that. And I don't know why is this very serious desire to keep sending Raila out of the country. They are always looking for a way. And Kenyans were joking and saying they'll make him Pope. But they're always looking for a way to get Raila out of our borders because they think he's the problem we have to our politics. But he's not. The problem we have is the school principal.
Fanya Mambo, are you saying Raila Odinga is being sent away?
That's what they were trying to do through African Union. And I'm glad the president said no, because they realized you're not sending us Raila. Yes, we agree he's qualified. But the primary reason you're sending him is because you're thinking you're trying to fix your political problems at home by bringing the person whom you think is your problem in politics. And I don't think Raila is the problem in our Kenyan politics. Problem is our president.
Okay.
Yeah.
Final message to Kenyans and anyone watching for that matter.
I think my very final message goes to the Nairobi City County and the Ministry of Environment, who have been working so hard and trying to say that they want to clean the rivers. And I want to speak specifically as a person who has come from Dagoretti South, where the Nairobi River starts from Nyongara and Kavode rivers. And they are saying that because of that, where they have tributaries, they've given us notices of 30 meters, and where they have rivers, they've given us notices of 60 meters, saying that riparian land goes all the way to 60 meters. Now, to those people who are giving those notices, let me tell you, 60 meters is right inside somebody's bedroom. Sasa uko kitchen, the children's bedroom is already in the river. Do you think the people of Dagoretti South would take that lightly and it's lying down? And as you call it riparian, the same government on this stretch they call riparian land that they want to move the people of Dagoretti from, there is a huge section of it where we have roads built by the same administration, Cabro roads. They've built sewer lines on that place they are calling riparian. Power lines are passing through that place. Internet lines are passing through that place, and they are still saying that that is riparian land, and therefore they are going to claim it.
But isn't that what that riparian zone is used for?
It gets more interesting because we even have schools there. It gets more interesting. Now they are saying you cannot continue staying on that riparian land, but we want to come and build affordable housing on that riparian land.
Okay, now that changes.
So you want to destroy the houses we have afforded. And mind you, in Dagoretti, unlike other regions, we have freehold titles. So they want to destroy the houses we have afforded and build now what they are calling more affordable houses. The beauty now becomes, as the river goes down and gets to Lavington, they forget, I think the tape measure that they were using to measure the 60 meter disappears. They forget that Lavington can donate 60 meters. Nobody has been told to move an inch from the river. And when it gets to Kileleshwa now, people are literally building on top of the rivers. Go to Arboretum, at the foot of it. They are building on top of the river. There is no riparian land there. But because our people are thought to be poor and upstream, they can give 60 meters. We are okay with giving you 60 meters, by the way. What is sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. Let us also, the people of Dagoretti South, as we give you 60 meters, take 60 meters from Kileleshwa, take 60 meters from Lavington, take 60 meters of every part of that river, all the way to the sewage line, Ruai. And if you do that, we will not have a problem. But it cannot be 60 meters upstream, and then when it goes downstream, the tape measure gets lost, and they wanasahau kupima, and then they start remembering how to measure once they get to Eastlands. That is not acceptable to us. And most finally, on the same, we wish to tell them that the people of Dagoretti South send me the very strong message that if they feel that we are disturbing so much in Nairobi, we can do a referendum and go back to Kiambu. After all, we used to be part of Kiambu. So we don't have to be in Nairobi if you feel that we are a nuisance to you people, because it appears the people of Lavington and Kileleshwa are more Nairobi than ourselves. So if they feel that, then we shall mobilize, do a referendum and say we want to go to Kiambu County. So hatutaki kusumbuliwa na Nairobi City County.
You want to go hard on IBC's
yes, we have to agree.
job.
We have to agree that decision has to be rescinded. It is not good for our people. It is not good for anyone. And finally, on the same, I don't know who taught them basic GHC. You know, I can take you into a GHC class. A river comes from a tributary. So when you see Kafode and Nyongara, those are tributaries of Nairobi River. If you came, for example, to Dagoretti North now, that's slightly outside our Dagoretti. Right outside Muslim Primary, 40 meters, there is a tributary there. The Nairobi City County, and I challenge anybody to go to Muslim Primary today, outside the gate, has made a huge dumping site outside the gate of a school, very close to the school, not less than 40 meters. And by the way, if you have to go there, go armed and go with policemen, because of the nature of the boys you'll find there who benefit from it. They have dumped it right there. And when they dump it right there, that tributary pours into Nairobi River. So don't you think it's lack of common sense for a person to sit down here saying there is garbage in Nairobi River and it's coming from a tributary that the same county is dumping on top of? And then they are wondering where garbage is coming from. Go back to class 6 and do GHC. Then you learn what is a tributary, and that a tributary feeds into a river, and that if you pour garbage as Nairobi City County on top of a tributary, that garbage will find itself in Nairobi River. And then you pay people you call Green Army to clean the river downstream. Common sense left these people a long time ago. And it's a high time they started using it. They just embrace a little bit of it. Or at least ask some people, what does a tributary mean? And where does it take its water? And why are we finding bottles down the stream? So it's a health hazard, first for the school. It's a health hazard for that region and for the whole river and for the whole ecosystem. And most finally, on the same line of thought.
Okay. Hey, Dagoretti problems are many.
Not Dagoretti problems. When you have a county government that wakes up tomorrow morning and realizes that the bulk of its garbage is plastic, and they carry it to Dandora, and they come tomorrow and they collect more plastic and they carry to Dandora, and they do that for 2 years, and it doesn't hit their head that there's something they need to do about it. I mean, walk into Rwanda today in a flight and carry those plastic bags of yours and see what will happen to you at the airport. Or even at the border. Then you'll understand that we spend more money managing plastic than we earn from plastic. And that's why the soda bottle is made of glass and they have attached a value to it. So that every time you're about to throw it, you remember, if I took it to the shop, I would get 15 shillings. County government of Nairobi, over to you. Again, you need to be good bedfellows with common sense. You are spending more managing plastic than plastic will ever earn for this country. You are wasting our money. Find a Rwandese way of managing garbage. And one of them is, try today going with a plastic bottle to Kigali International Airport. Tuone kama utashuka nayo. Thank you.
Of course not. Fantastic. Wow. Geoffrey Musira, Sakaja, I hope you got the message. That is, of course, to the county. Thank you so much for coming through. It's been an amazing discourse we've had today. For you who has watched, totally appreciate it to the end. I hope we are picking things here and there. And finally, to the CDF, thanks for reaching out to Kenyans. At least Kenyans are seeing, number one, CDF exists for a reason. Number two, at least you're getting feedback that Kenyans are actually more patriotic than the whole idea of wanting to ban a country. And that is the most important thing for us, because we all want to exist in a functional state. So we are all united in this, and I hope they can keep looking at us citizens as people who are united for a better Kenya, not to destroy this country. Yeah. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you on the next episodes.